Hi everyone, my name is Occy, and today we're going to be taking a look at the basics of McCree. So let's get right into it. McCree is one of the most commonly chosen heroes, yet competitive and casual levels of play. And the reason for this is, in spite of the many nerfs McCree has seen, both in the closed beta test and after release, his kit remains one of the most dependable and powerful in the entire game, and despite its simplicity, is extremely effective. So let's take a look at what he's got. His primary weapon is, of course, the Peacekeeper revolver that you see there, with two firing modes. Your main firing mode is going to fire single shots just like you see there. It fires at a fixed rate of fire, so even if I hold down the button, it's not going to shoot any faster, although you, of course, can control and wait your shots out a little bit longer. This firing mode also has perfect accuracy, which means that I can shoot my little friend there, or come down here and take a shot at the one all the way down there, and it's still going to hit. So there is absolutely no spread for this weapon. The bullet always goes exactly where your reticle is pointing. Next up, his secondary fire is the infamous, now nerfed, Fan the Hammer, where he fires out all of the bullets remaining in his revolver, and they will have a lot of spread. So obviously I can shoot my friend there, but if I try and hit my friend over here, no. You'll also notice that it has recoil. The shots will go up. So it's important, if you are using this, to drag your mouse down slightly as you fire in order to cancel the recoil. I know CSGO players will probably find that very simple, but it's worth keeping in mind for players that are new to shooters. Now, I want to point out that the damage on his Fan the Hammer is a lot less than his primary fire. If you look at the damage that a body shot on his primary fire does, it's just about almost 3 bars. But if we look at one shot from his Fan the Hammer, it's just under 2 bars. So that's basically a full bar difference, more or less. Now, I forget off the top of my head the damage values for his primary fire, although I do know that Fan the Hammer is 40 damage. However, damage numbers aren't really that important to know because of the fact that McCree has damage falloff. Now, if you're not familiar with the term, damage falloff basically means that whenever you fire a shot, if the bullet connects at a greater distance, it will have less damage. The damage essentially falls off the further away you are from a target. To demonstrate this, I have my friend here. We'll go to about 30 meters. This is a good mid-range. And that does, you know, the damage you would expect, 3 bars. But if I back all the way up to here, not nearly as much. And if I back up even farther, that's barely doing a bar of damage each time. So this is important to keep in mind with McCree, because you can't just snipe with him from super long ranges. You do have to, you know, be reasonably close to your enemies. It's also worth noting that his pistol can't headshot, only on the primary fire though. If I try and headshot with the secondary fire, it doesn't work. So you definitely want to be going for your headshots on McCree, since headshots doing double damage will increase how quickly you can kill someone. With my body shots, it's about 3 shots to take someone out. With the headshot, well, he was already damaged, but with the headshot, it's only 2. You're never going to kill someone outright with a headshot unless we're talking Tracer or Zenyatta. But other than that, he has a lot of dependable damage. Now let's move on to the rest of his abilities. First up, we have his combat roll. You saw right there. Basically, it's a quick little dodge or juke to get you out of the way in combat. Your hitbox remains active during this, so technically someone still can hurt you while you're in your roll. You don't get invincibility frames. But the roll is extremely fast, and your model does roll. So you're going to be extremely hard to hit, and it's unlikely that you will take damage during the roll unless it is to luck or to something like Winston's Tesla Cannon or Symmetra's Beam, which don't require any aiming whatsoever. I want to also note that the most important part of the roll is the fact that when you roll, your gun reloads completely.
Bullseye.
So you can obviously see how useful this will be if you're in the middle of a fight, you've spent all your bullets, you need to reload quickly, just boom, reposition and reload, and you're back in the fight in less than a second. Moving on to his next ability, it is the Flashbang, and this is a very short-ranged explosive which deals a small amount of damage and stuns anyone it hits within its radius for about 1 second. You can see there it does just about a bar, which is 25 damage. I believe it does 25 damage exactly. Which is, that's not much. A melee is going to do more than that, but it's damage nonetheless.
Smart, don't it?
What you saw there is the old flash and fan combo, which unfortunately is not as viable anymore after the nerf. The flash and fan combo is basically where you flash immediately into a fan the hammer, and of course, if you wanted, you could also roll if your enemy was not dead and finish them off with another fan the hammer. However, this is not going to be very effective since the fan the hammer damage is pretty low, and you basically need to hit all your shots in order to kill a 200 health enemy. I think you can go down to 4 or 5 shots. Let's see if 4 does it. Yeah, 4 is not going to kill a full health, 200 health enemy. So 4 fan the hammer shots are only going to be killing Tracer and Zenyatta, and it's not very good. What you want to do instead,
Now, hold on.
boom, is the flashbang into the headshot, and keep in mind, we've already done the 25 bar flashbang. So boom, and then you finish them off with a melee. Very, very reliable, much better. And even if you don't manage to finish them off, you've basically completely crippled them. Now, to finish out his kit, I want to go over the ult. And the ult is rather complicated, so I'm going to take a moment to explain it before I actually activate it and show you. When you activate the ult, your movement speed is slowed. So about, I think it's even slower than crouch speed. Might be about the same. And you cannot use any of the tools in your kit. So you can't fire, you can't flashbang or roll. And when you're in this state, you will lock on to anyone in your field of view. Any enemies in your field of view, you start to lock onto and build damage. Once you have built enough damage to kill them, that is, damage equal to their health, a red skull will be placed over them to show that you can kill them. Now, if you choose to fire, you will unleash all of your shots onto everyone you have locked onto. The shots will do whatever damage you have accumulated, so you can fire before you've built up enough damage to kill someone. You obviously won't kill them, you'll just do damage to them. If you built up enough damage to kill someone, you'll do damage to them. You'll kill them, obviously, because that's how the ult works. However, there are a couple of other ways for the ult to end. You can cancel it, the timer on the ult can run out, or someone can kill you. If any one of those 3 things happens, you will still retain 50% of your ult charge, because of the fact that when you activate your ult, it doesn't take 100% of the ult, it only takes 50%. So that was a lot of stuff to take in, and there's even more information about the ult. So I'm just going to show you the ult real quick into a cancel, and then I'll show you an actual execution. So here's the ult. Boom. As you can see, I move very slowly. There's the lock-ons, and I'm going to cancel out of it. You notice I still have 50% of my ult because it was not taken away. I also did no damage to them because I chose not to use the ult. I simply locked onto them. I'm going to build it back up real quick here and show you what a full ult looks like. I'm going to come over here. This will be a little bit more interesting because we have a bunch of guys running around here. I'm going to activate, it builds up, locks on, and then boom. You get the quad kill, and you can see how strong this ult can be for killing multiple enemies. Now, some more stuff with the ult. If you may have noticed, those rings only apply to line of sight, so you do not build damage on enemies if they are not in your line of sight, and you cannot kill them if they are not in your line of sight either. Even if you have already built up insta-kill damage on them, they actually have to be in your line of sight. You have to be able to see them for that to work. However, your lock-on will still persist after they have walked behind a wall. So as you can see, I can still see that guy over there, even though he's behind a wall and know where he is. And when he comes right back out, he still has the insta-kill on him because I'd already locked onto him. I don't need to rebuild that damage. This is very important because you can actually use this as a sort of mini radar to deduce where everyone is and to let your teammates know where team configurations are and how many people are together. You'll notice that I can't lock through walls, so I didn't see those guys until I actually caught them in my field of view. But once I do have them locked on, even if it's only a small bit, even if I haven't gotten the red skull yet, I will then be able to see them permanently until the end of the ult through any walls. Now, a few more things to do with the ult. We're almost done with the ult, I promise. Take a look at my ammo in the bottom right hand corner, 3 out of 6. I pop the ult, and yep, the ult will reload your gun completely for you. This is especially useful if you just, you know, like fought off a flanker or something. You found yourself in a nice vantage point and you want to get that ult off, don't bother reloading, just pop it. You're fine. I suppose you also could technically ult into a cancel if you wanted to get a quick reload, but it's about the same speed and I wouldn't consider wasting that 50% worth it, to be honest. Especially since you already have the combat rule to do that for you. One final thing I want to mention with the ult, actually two final things, slightly related, is that the ult will fire from right to left. So, it does not go in the order of enemies you lock on, it does not go in the order of who you saw first or whatever, it goes from right to left, including if people move. It's always going to go in that direction. So you want to keep this in mind, preferably putting tanks, like maybe Winston with a shield, on your right, and then have an open area to your left. So like if there's a wall or something, this would be a bad place to ult since there's cover over there. And I fire in this direction, meaning that if my enemies hear me ult, they're going to run for the cover over there, and it's going to take longer for my bullets to reach them, even if I lock on. Rather, if I come over here and locked on, this would be a much better way to do it, because if they're running for this cover over here, they're going to run straight in the path of my line of bullets. And then, like I mentioned before with the Winston shield, your ults can insta-kill Winston shields. So you kind of want to lock onto Winston first so that his shield gets destroyed and doesn't block shots for anyone else that might be hiding underneath it. One final thing that I need to mention before we move on is, again, with regards to ammo and his ult. Just let me get one more shot off here. Alright. Pay close attention to my ammunition during this ult. Now you notice I came out of the ult with the bullet missing. The ult actually does take ammunition from your gun. And this can be very important if you pull off one of those really crazy, you know, like 4-man ults, and from the top of a building or something, and you're like, I'm gonna jump down and get that tank that the ult didn't get. Boom, flashbang. And then you're like, wait, I only have 2 bullets left in my clip. Always remember to reload, or at least combat roll, after the ult, in order that you can have that full clip. Don't go rushing in until you've got the bullets back. Now, since we've gotten the ult out of the way, I know that was a lot of information, but thank you for sticking with me. The ult is honestly probably one of the most complicated parts about McCree, and the rest of him is fairly simple. But, before we get into any of the other technical stuff, since you've already probably noticed, McCree is all about aiming. And since that's basically the core of how his gameplay works, I'm going to talk about aiming real quick, and how you can improve your aim through various settings, as well as a couple of basic exercises, I guess, to help you out. But first, we're going to go into our controls and sensitivity. You'll notice I have mine at 7. Now, sensitivity for PCs versus console is very interesting because for consoles, you want to have your sensitivity as high as possible. The reason being, with those little thumbsticks, it's hard to turn around fast unless the sensitivity is really high. You can only press the thumbstick so far, so if your sensitivity is really low on console, you'll only be able to turn like that. But if it's high, you'll turn something more like that. Now on PC, it's the opposite because of the mouse. With the mouse, you want very low sensitivity so you can have that control. As you can see, Since my hand has to make bigger movements to control the mouse, it's easier for me to keep my reticle on the target than if it was at a high sensitivity where a slight twitch in my hand might cause the reticle to go like that. PC has the advantage here because although you have to make bigger movements, you have more freedom to do so. If I want to turn all the way around with picking up the mouse, I can do that. I just have to move my mouse farther. But I have that freedom. And if I want to turn quickly, like I want to do a 180 to face these guys, boom, I have that option as well. So, generally speaking, with PC, you want your sensitivity to be low, and with console, you want your sensitivity to be high. Now, there's no real like set, like this is a good sensitivity, but generally I would say anywhere within the range of 5 to 15 for Overwatch is going to be pretty good. Now, you also want to keep in mind your mouse DPI, and if you don't know what this is, DPI is a special setting that stands for dots per inches that is a feature of most gaming mouses, and basically it's sort of a sensitivity for the mouse itself, which is outside of the game, because all games have different sensitivities. Now, you can calibrate your sensitivity if you have drivers for your mouse, but you don't necessarily have to have one. I happen to use a very cheap, like $10 Anchor mouse. It has like 2 thumb buttons, and it has pre-programmed DPI levels at 800, 1200, 1600, and 2400, and I use the 2400 level. So I have 7 sensitivity and 2400 DPI, just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm using. Not necessarily mean you have to use that, it's just to give you an idea. Moving on to the reticle itself, you may have noticed I changed the color of my reticle to green. Now, this is for a couple of reasons. I generally like having the color of my reticle changed in games, and you can see here Overwatch gives you a couple of good colors to use. Back in my TF2 days, I like to use purple a lot. Purple is a good color, although it can kind of blend in with those red outlines, so I'm not so sure about using it in Overwatch. Another good color is yellow. Yellow is always going to stand out for the most part, because there's not a whole lot of bright yellow stuff. Even looking at this yellow line, it's pretty clear where my reticle is. And, you know, like holding it over other yellow elements, it's still pretty clear where the yellow is. So yellow is a good option as well. I personally use green, and there's a reason for that. While yellow and the pinkish purple both stand out really well, green is going to be your best option. And the reason of this is because this is the least likely color to be matched by anything in the world. And think about it for a minute. Why do people use green screens? It's the same idea. This is the least likely color to be matched with anything, and so this is the color that you want. It's kind of the same. It's basic. It is the same tech as green screens, basically, although maybe not quite the exact same color. So I definitely recommend going with green. One other thing you want to notice is you can change your crosshair, and this really helps. I really like the normal dot crosshair on McCree, as you probably noticed. The reason being, it removes everything except where the bullet is going to go on my screen. It removes all the excess clutter of like rings and lines from on my crosshair, and I'm not lying to myself about anything. Sometimes if you have that circle and dot crosshair, like this one, but with the circle around it, you'll kind of trick yourself, because you'll be aiming about, you know, oh, my circle's touching his head, but you know, like, no, it's not actually there. So the dot is just really honest, especially on McCree, and it really helps you know where exactly you're aiming. But the dot is not going to be good for everyone, which is why you can customize it per hero. So I go to my McCree settings, and you see I have it on dot. I could put it back to default, but like I said, I don't like default because it can kind of lie to you sometimes. So I go to dot. But for other characters, I don't want the dot. A good example of this would probably be Reaper. I'm going to show you in a sec. Let me go grab Reaper. I always seem to be using Reaper. And with Reaper, you don't want touch the dot, because this really shows you your spread. You can see where the blast of the shotgun is going to go, and that dot almost isn't even really necessary, apart from seeing like where the absolute center of your reticle is, if maybe for some reason you had to do long range. So you can customize it per hero, which I definitely recommend doing. Another hero actually that benefits from having the default is of course Hanzo, who has the drop reticles for shooting at distance. And also when he uses his abilities, it shows you what arrow you're currently using. So don't just jump on the dot as like the be-all end-all, oh, it shows exactly where you're shooting. But definitely on McCree, I highly advise using this. Now, as for aiming itself, there's not a whole lot I'm going to go over as far as exercises. There's plenty of great aiming guides out there about how to improve your aim, how to deal with, you know, recoil and whatnot. But I'll give you a couple to get started. First, place your reticle over the head of one of the robots, and then switch, and back, and back, and back. And you just kind of want to try and get faster and faster with this. Keep putting it over the heads. And then we focus on one, and we're going to walk in a 180-degree circle around him, trying to keep our reticle on his head. Boom, 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 boom. This helps you track with your own movement, because when you're in a fight and you're moving around and aiming, it's not just your enemy that's moving, it's you as well. So again, like I said, there's plenty of other guides. You can mix this up as well. Boom, maybe go to this guy, and then boom, switch, 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 boom. Another good one is you go from 180 and snap, boom, and snap, boom, and snap. Obviously, I need to practice that one a little myself. But it's just a lot of basic stuff like that, and then getting faster and getting more smooth. I'm not going to spend much time on that. Alright, so there's something I want to touch on with his roll real quick. The roll is actually very handy for crossing certain distances. Now, everyone knows you can't jump this gap, even though looks, we got the height advantage. It just can't be done. You can't do it with a normal jump. But get right up on the edge, the roll will actually get you over. It's kind of crazy considering the roll doesn't actually give you any height. And I'm pretty sure this is because the roll, during the roll, you don't actually get affected by gravity, so you just move like straight out and then you start dropping. But in any case, it's a neat little trick, and there's a lot of spaces on maps where you can use it. That's just like one of the most famous. While we're on the subject of movement, I want to caution you not to take McCree's basic mobility and underestimate it, because there's some surprising flanks you can pull off here on Volskaya Industries. After you take this here lift up to the top, well, what do you know? Look at that. Alright, so a little known tech that people don't know about with the Flashbang is that since it does damage, it is incredibly effective against symmetric turrets. Let's say you have like one here, two there, and two there, and you're out here. You know they're there. Boom. That Flashbang just targeted all of those turrets, and since they all only have 1 health, that 25 damage is more than enough to kill them. So keep that in mind when playing with symmetric turrets. One final thing before I go, I forgot to mention earlier, with your Famous Hammer, you cannot cancel it with a melee or a primary fire. However, you can cancel with a roll, and you can cancel with a flashbang, and you can even cancel with an ult. So that's all I have for McCree today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something, more importantly. And I will see you guys in the next one.
You done?
Yes, McCree, I am. Bye.